Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Joe Rimmer, joined today by Paul Gorst. I nearly went to say tall Paul Gorst. I fell over my words there, but you okay?
Yeah, all good. Very tired, actually.
Yeah.
It's been a long week, hasn't it?
Not really, no.
It has for me.
Yeah. Why
Has it been a long week? You had about 2 days off, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, been a long day. Ian Doyle, how are you?
As usual.
As usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If tall Paul Gorst fell over, we'd probably hear about it. It's like,
Yeah.
he's quite substantial in his
He's
frame.
He's the Echo Redwood, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
What tree would you be?
probably a little Christmas tree.
I like your baubles. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know my trees, to be honest. What tree would you be?
I don't know.
Silver. What they called? Silver
Oak?
birch? Oak.
Silver birch, that would
Silver
work.
birch?
Yeah.
Yeah. What tree would you be? That was not the way I expected to start this podcast, but there you go. I'm a little bit put off by our producer Ian has decided that Liverpool are in Dublin. He's not
Dublin bound.
Yeah, Dublin bound,
he's
yeah.
Dublin bound, but we're not taking it for granted.
I like his confidence, his optimism.
Our glasses of Carabao are half full on the Blood Red podcast, so we expect Liverpool to get there, and Europa League draw happened today. We'll talk about that shortly. We are live on YouTube, so if you've got a question, a comment, a thought, if you want a shout out, if you're a Doyleaholic and want to have a word with the Doylester and me to put a question to him.
I'm quite happy to accept questions.
If you're a Gorst Ultra and want to speak to the tall man himself, drop your question in the chat.
I did get an email today. Someone wanted to speak to me. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and he left me a lovely little 4-letter insult. Boring, began with a T.
Yeah.
Tall?
No, no.
Yeah.
I was outraged at 9:05 on a Friday morning.
Yeah. Well, I just felt the need to send it, to be honest.
Yeah.
So there you go.
What about people who back you, other than being a bit daft? What would you call them?
I don't know. I had Doyleaholic and Gorst Ultra lined up there, so I didn't. I don't have anything for me.
The Joe sect. You'd be the Joe King, wouldn't you?
The cult of Joe King, yeah. But,
Joe King.
You tell me in the chat. I don't know what to say. What have you up to outside of work this week, Gorsty?
I went to Blue Planet Aquarium on Tuesday.
Good aquarium, isn't it? Yeah.
Brilliant, yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
I've been since I was a kid, and I was I was like a kid in the sharks flying over my head and all that.
Yeah, the Sea Life Centre and the Trafford Centre is also good if you're an aquarium fan.
I haven't been to that Blue Planet one for years. It's
really
still
good.
decent, yeah.
So much so that Masa Mori, the Japanese journalist, came up to me and just said to me yesterday, Blue Planet Aquarium, and then walked away. That's all I needed to say.
I wasn't just stalking you.
Yeah, fair play. What have you been up to in outside of work?
I've just been working. I can't even remember. Oh, I know what there was. There was the music quiz on Wednesday. Our former colleague Peter Guy. Yeah.
Did you win?
No.
No.
We finished joint third.
Joint third.
Which was there was more than that, but it was interesting.
What was your quiz team name? Just Finch?
The name of the band? Finch.
Finch?
Yeah. Finch.
I like
Finch
that.
were there.
Ian Doyle plays in a band. That's
He
one
does.
for our listeners called Finch. And
I think they got that. What we were just talking about. To be fair.
If you YouTube it, will we find it?
Yes, actually,
Yeah,
but it doesn't
so-
have the name, so we'll put the link in our bio, shall we?
Will we? Okay,
No,
there you
we
go.
won't. We won't really.
Yeah, okay.
He's a bakeman, and he's
Yeah. Before we crack on,
Hang on, what did you do?
what did I do this week? I went to a lovely restaurant actually on Dovedale Road called Johnson. So any South Liverpoolers, if you're looking for some Nepalese food, very good. Little hidden gem on Dovedale Road. So there you go. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Before we crack on, I've got something to talk about. The Pubscast Awards, not the Puscast Awards. The Mirror are running the Pubcast Awards. We're looking for the best goals from the amateur leagues. You must have scored a few good ones in your day.
Not for a while, no.
No. In your day. I did say in your day.
Yeah, in my day was when I was about 12, yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
When I peaked.
So if you are a frequent goal scorer in the amateur leagues and you want to send them in, you can win a cash prize. Just search Mirror Pubcast Awards and there'll be details on how to send it in. Doyle, you once scored against Liverpool.
I did, but it was a penalty, so I don't think that's ever going to
Who was
get
in goal?
highlights reel. John Achterberg was in goal, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there you go. Right, there's lots to talk about. Lots to talk about. We'll start, I think, Jurgen Klopp held his press conference today, looking ahead to Man United. So we'll start there. Doesn't look like Konaté is going to be back, but Liverpool looking in. the way things have gone this season, in decent health for that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think given the way the Liverpool performed against Man City when they had so many first-team stars not playing, and played City off the park for the second half, I don't think you should be concerned now about injuries. I really think Liverpool have come through the worst of it with the Carabao Cup final and then beating Southampton, got a few back. So now they're at a stage where, okay, injuries are still a bit of an issue and a concern, but I don't think there should be any apprehension over the players who come in and take the places of these players who can't. So, yeah, Canate, huge blow, but would anyone bet against Jarell Quansah turning in another excellent performance at Old Trafford on Sunday, or Joe Gomez filling in?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I would at this stage. I think the pair of them have been superb, and we know Van Dijk is, well, for me anyway, Van Dijk's been the best centre-back in the league this season. So, yeah, it'd be a shame if he doesn't make it, but they're, he'll rest up in the international break and hopefully be fine for that game against Brighton, which for me is a massive, biggest league game in years, because Liverpool absolutely have to win that, go top, and then see what happens with Arsenal and Man City.
Yeah, good shout. I mean, one question, any news on Alisson? Alisson's one player that he didn't talk about today.
Correct. So therefore, he's nowhere near coming back. So that's the news.
It doesn't sound good for Alisson, does it, in terms of...
We've had this a few times.
Yeah,
I reckon I'd be amazed if he plays again this season. Not amazed. I'd be amazed if he plays more than 3 games this season. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And also, let's just say he does come back for the last 3 games. Are you playing him?
It's a big question,
that's the debate, isn't it? Yeah.
Especially with how well Kelleher has coped in his absence so far. I mean, there's plenty of football to be played, but right now, I mean, Kelleher's played as well as you could ask for, really, isn't he?
Yeah, John Aldridge said in this column, was it this week or last week, that Kelleher's got the shirt and deserves to keep his place if Alisson comes back. And at the time when I kind of read that, I thought maybe there's a little bit of Irish bias there, although being a famous Ireland international. But it's a good point, isn't it? Kelleher hasn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just about the rhythm and the momentum that Klopp always talks about. And there's so many players who've got that right now, and Kelleher is one of them.
And like you say, if Alisson did come back with, say, a cup final to go, do you then just stick him straight back in? It just,
of course you don't.
It would
be very fair.
Could be a shock to the system, couldn't it, for the players around him as well?
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing that. But again, we've got no inclination. That's no indication. Sorry, that he's going to be back anytime soon. So it's all just conjecture and hearsay.
But there was some good news on Jones.
Yeah.
He meant to be back for the Brighton game, and then he said that Jota and Trent could be back for the game after that, which is Man United away again. Yeah, yes.
So it feels like key returns. It feels like, I mean, momentum is with Liverpool, but it feels like this international break in terms of the players coming back could come at a good time for them.
Well, Canate, if he's injured, he won't be going. He's meant to got called up for France, hasn't he? But if he's injured, then he won't be going, surely. Yeah. Although knowing what France are like, they'll call him up and make him turn up. Find out that he is injured, then send him back.
They'll find out he's injured and play him 90 minutes in both games.
no, 89 in both games. Yeah.
Well, they've had a bit of good fortune with Egypt, haven't they? Egypt decided not to take Salah. Could have been easy for them to pick him, given that he's back playing.
That's true. But I mean, you mentioned momentum. I think we mentioned this on the podcast the other day, that momentum's now after Sunday's pointless because it's just a restart for the remainder of the season after the international break. Yeah, well,
Mohamed Salah started last night for the first time since early January, New Year's Day, and it was just excellent. I mean, he was a cut above, wasn't he, Sparta Prague? But he's got a good record against United, and it feels like he could be someone who Liverpool could really look to on Sunday to decide the outcome of this game.
Yeah, he scored 12 in 13 games against United, which is a remarkable record. Obviously got a hat-trick a few years back in the... just at the moment, every time he goes there, he seems to be scoring. And even last season when Liverpool were really poor, and you were just starting to get the feeling that this was a season a bit too far for the team, he still scores in that one.
It was only the third game, wasn't it? Last season? They'd lost their opening.
Just hadn't started well at all, had they? Drew with Fulham, drew with Palace, got beat by United. But yes, Salah, 20 goals for the season now. 7 successive seasons, the only player to do that for Liverpool. It's just that stat, isn't it? Only Mo Salah, kind of prefix to so many statistics, and only Mo Salah has scored 20 times in 7 seasons straight. When you think of all the goal scorers Liverpool have had, that's some record to have, isn't it? What's he going to finish on? 25? Could he get 30? Might be asking a bit much, couldn't it? But Liverpool's main man took his goal really well last night. Should have had one last week against Prague, to be fair, shouldn't he? That just wasn't offside. But yeah, coming back just at the right time, possibly.
It's his all-round game, isn't it? I mean, you did some analysis on him last night, Doyle, and big claim, but you said no one in Liverpool history gets near him.
In terms of his goal contributions, he's played 330 odd games and he's averaging a goal contribution every 92 minutes, which is ridiculous.
Every game.
I mean, exactly. That's what I mean. So practically every game he either sets one up or scores one, which is fine if you've played 50, 20, possibly 100 games, but he's played 300 odd.
Yeah.
He's getting towards 350 now, which is just it is insane. And 7 years at Liverpool, we've seen, what was it? Mane did 6, didn't he? Yeah. Firmino did 7 as well. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see what happens with Salah at the end of the season. But he's not given any indication that he's going anywhere. No. So, Liverpool. He's quite clearly Liverpool's best player, and as you said, against Sparta, I think he came on. What was it game? Was it Linz? I think it was in the first group game, and it was like he's about 10 times better than everybody else on this pitch, and it was a little bit like that last night.
Yeah, I mean, Klopp said that he's never said this to a player before, but he basically said to him in the second half, "Don't defend." Yeah,
I'm actually not sure that if you've got a short-term memory loss, I think, old Jurgen there, because I'm sure in the extra time period of this is now someone's going to prove that I've got memory loss, but I'm sure in the extra time period at the Chelsea game that he said that they told Elliott and Diaz not to bother coming back and just stay up. I'm sure he said that, and now someone will say that they both got subbed, but they didn't, did they? They were both there at the end. So I'm sure that happened.
In terms of Salah, though, I think his game has changed markedly over the last 12 months. He's still got that eye for goal, hasn't he? And he's ruthless, but he's also a bit of a creator. He kind of comes in off the flank now and he's looking to play those passes to the likes of Diaz on the opposite flank. And he should have had an assist last night as well, shouldn't he? It was a bit... I mean, we didn't actually see a replay. I don't think anyone could be bothered even checking it because it was 11-2 on aggregate. But the pass for Gakpo, lovely little outside of the foot. Should have had an assist against City, shouldn't he? Diaz going clean through. He just seemed... Obviously, his goals will always be there, but he just seems to be a bit more of a all-round creator now as well.
He did get 3 assists last night.
Yeah. He's always been a good creator, hasn't he, in terms of assists, but I feel like this season he's taken on more responsibility, not just on the pitch, but just in general at Liverpool. He feels like, and he is a senior figure, but I always had the feeling with Salah in previous years at Liverpool, he was almost on the periphery a little bit. He didn't really feel like he was... I don't know, he felt almost isolated at times in terms of his fit, the way he sort of carries himself, and that I don't know. I'm struggling to sort of put it into words, but I feel like he's more involved in Liverpool now. And Liverpool.
Do you think maybe it's because it's the first season where Mane and Firmino haven't been there? Obviously, Mane left the season before last, and Firmino.
Henderson's not there either.
Yeah, Henderson's
and
not
Milner.
there. So the big personalities moved on, and it's allowed his personality to sort of come to the front. I mean, he's always struck me as quite a quiet character.
He certainly is in the mix, though.
Yeah, but now I feel like perhaps more people are naturally looking to him for advice and thoughts because, like you say, all those characters have moved on. So,
Harvey Elliott's one who's relied on him quite a lot, and he's obviously big chums with Tsimikas.
Yeah,
and I think Robertson as well. I think he gets on quite well with. This is only from like the bits that we see.
Yeah.
Lovely little understanding with Nunes as well.
I've seen that, and I think with Bobby Clark as well. I think he's got a lot of time for him as well.
Yeah, I think he's helped the likes of Nunes settle, hasn't he? And I don't really feel like I got the feeling Salah was doing that in the past, whereas now I feel like he is more involved in that. There's a great story, wasn't there, with Elliot, where Elliot was like having a piece of toast in the canteen.
It's white bread, wasn't
it? Went over and went, no, you've had one slice for the day.
No, it was eating white bread, wasn't he? And so he said, "No, you want to be having brown." He says, "Why?" He says, "Well," and then he explained it, and then now Harvey Elliott puts his entire career down to brown bread.
Yeah, he wants to have a word with my kids because they won't eat brown bread. So there you go.
Do you eat the crusts?
No, but they did, and now they start cutting them off.
Do you eat the crusts?
Do I? Yeah.
Did you when you were younger?
I can't really remember. Probably not.
I can't remember. It wasn't that long ago.
Well, it was quite a long time ago. It was 5, Ian.
Right, it's about 40. It's 40 years ago. Yes,
exactly 30 years ago.
40. Yeah.
I'm looking at the game of the weekend, Gorsty, thinking the midfield is going to be massively key. United. Last season, I had a bee in my bonnet about United. I never thought they'd be that good. You don't get beat 7-0 by anyone if you're a good team. And I thought they just stumbled over the line. this season they've been exposed to the type of side they are. They concede a hell of a lot of shots. They play sort of on the counter attack almost all the time. I feel like for Liverpool, that midfield and the form that Endo, Szoboszlai, and especially McAllister is in, that could be where the game is won at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, United got a point in December by closing ranks, looking to close space, sit in, dig deep, maybe try and play on the counter if it arises, but they're not going to get away with that at Old Trafford, I don't think. Certainly with a place at Wembley at stake, so they're going to have to be, or try and be at least a bit more expansive, and that's where spaces and gaps will open up for Liverpool, I think. Liverpool in those sort of transitions from back to front are so good, aren't they, and probably the best in Europe, and I think that could be the difference. If United try and play the way their fans would want them to, I find it strange, United, they've got 0 goal difference in mid-March, which is just remarkable.
Was it not the same last year? I seem to remember the goal difference last year wasn't great. To be fair, they did lose 7 to Liverpool.
Never play well, never win convincingly. Always sort of bailed out with a moment of magic from one of the stars, who they're getting fewer and fewer of those in the squad these days. I find just a real strange team. But somehow are still in the mix for the top 4. Maybe they're just the fact that they are Manchester United is what is dragging them through to this point, because they never seem to play well whenever I see them.
I think there's an element in that, and I think it's funny with Liverpool United, because I always look at them and think they sort of traded places, especially throughout my lifetime, and I think Liverpool always had that. When they had poor seasons, they would always be in the fight for the top 4, even if they missed out, even if they weren't playing well. And it felt like just because Anfield was a tough place to go, and they could drag themselves through games. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of cracks that have been covered up in this United team, and Liverpool are poised, if they play anything like they played at the weekend, to expose them.
I think United are, I've said this before, a very economical team in the sense of they don't really try to do a lot to win games. And what hasn't changed for United is that they will, if they get into a little bit of trouble, if they really, really need a result, they'll just suddenly remember, oh, hang on, we're Man United, and then they'll do something, insanely ridiculous. Like, I think it was Brentford, wasn't it, where they scored 2 goals in the last minute. Yeah, so they do have that. And as Gorst said, because they've got these players who can have those moments of magic, like Rashford or Fernandes, whose parents were probably pleased with some of his recent performances. That's a very niche reference, that one, wasn't it? Yeah, very niche reference, that one.
Certain members of the Man United fan community aren't watching.
But yeah, I mean, the keeper as well. Keeper's been doing a lot better of late, and I think that's something that Liverpool fans...
throwing them in.
Well, Liverpool fans will have to bear that in mind, because if Liverpool are to not win, the United keeper's going to have had a good game. And that wouldn't be as much of a surprise as it perhaps would have been 2-3 months ago for Onana to have a good game. So, I mean, I watched United play Everton, and no disrespect to our producer, but I watched Liverpool City the following day, and it was like it was a different sport. I mean, Everton, we know what their problems are, but United, if they didn't... Again, United played not very good. Everton had quite a few chances. They've obviously not got a strike, so they've never got a score. And Garnacho, he's got a little bit of magic in his feet, wins 2 penalties, the game's over by half-time. So, that's the danger that United have. But if you sit there and watch them all the time, or most of the time, you'll just go...
They never play well.
How on earth are they doing this? And they did get caught out in fact, were they in the Champions League? They were, of course, they must have been, Who did they play?
Copenhagen.
Oh, that's right. They conceded 3 in almost every away game.
It's funny with the Champions League.
I think they did in every away game, didn't they? Yeah.
I think the Champions League is it can be the great measuring stick of how good you actually are. And if you get in it, I think the poor seasons Liverpool had under Rodgers, I remember United having one where they get dumped out in the group stages, and I think for sometimes you look at it, and I looked at the Champions League draw today, and everyone knows the Europa League is the new Champions League. That's what everyone's saying. That's what everyone's saying.
When you say everybody, do you mean everybody called Joe Rimmer from Runcorn?
That's what everyone's saying.
Yeah.
But I looked at it and you think, oh God, it's not as good as it used to be. But then it's always the great equaliser, isn't it, for teams like Man United who get into it and just get exposed. Copenhagen play them off the park, and it's happened to Liverpool at times when they didn't really deserve to be there. I mean, look at Real Madrid; they pulled them apart last season when Liverpool were in a bad way. So I think that was the measuring stick of how good United were, and they quickly went out of it.
And Newcastle as well.
Newcastle as well,
I also think as well, talking about the Champions League, as Liverpool would have been looking at that today, hating it, kicking themselves. Because they'd be in with a shout of winning that.
Well, the thingy, the Brian Priest, who they just played, Sparta manager, he came out and just said, look, Liverpool are a Champions League team, they should be in the Champions League, and they could easily win the Premier League in a few months, because he was doing that in reference to Sparta saying to their fans, don't go overboard at the fact we've just lost 11-2 in aggregate to Liverpool, because they're actually quite good.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we've gone a bit overboard in the title here, Liverpool headed to Dublin. But you look at the Europa League and you look at the draw and think, you know, if Liverpool play half decent against Atalanta, they should get through. You know, then they face Benfica or Marseille, and Marseille I think will be a tough place to go, as will Benfica. But at Anfield, you know, they should win both of those games, and really Liverpool should be very much preparing for a final. I
think the biggest factor against Liverpool at this point is the rest of the season, like the kind of context of the games that are coming in. You know, they play Benfica in the second leg of a semi-final, but they've got, you know, a big game at the weekend and they need to win to go above Arsenal, whatever it may be. That is a big factor in the context of it all. But on paper, you're looking at it thinking they should beat Atalanta, they should beat Benfica or Marseille, and then you're into the final, Dublin bound, as our title suggests, and it could be against Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen.
Or it could be against West Ham.
West Ham,
yeah. David Moyes against. Imagine
how
that.
much of a letdown would that be? It's just.
Well, it really. Shouldn't matter. Hang on. It shouldn't matter who you play in the final. Like, you don't look at the finalists and go, "Oh, that's a bit of a letdown that we're playing this not as good team."
I think it'd be more difficult the fact that they're English.
Yeah, I always think that, and you never really want to play English teams in Europe, because the whole point in being in Europe is to play the best.
You say that, but you know, I think we want Man City to play Arsenal in the semi-finals of the Champions League. That would be good.
That'd be good. Yeah, certainly.
Actually, no, we don't. We want them both to get knocked out. What I'm talking about.
Yeah,
if they did play each other, then it would certainly offer a bit of a distraction for the pair of them.
The 2 games
in the battle for second place.
The sweet spot is they play each other in the semi, and then one of them just gets beaten in the final. But then looking at the other side, the draw.
Exactly. I think whoever's getting to the final out of that half has probably got a very good chance.
Yeah.
Who's the other team in it? I couldn't remember.
So it's Bayern Munich v Arsenal, Real Madrid versus Man City,
and it's PSG against Barcelona, and it's Atletico against Dortmund. That's it, right?
Yeah. So it's strange, wasn't it? Because Dortmund are having a good season, Bayern are having a bad season by their standards. So, you know, and then you look at the Europa League and Liverpool are head and shoulders, and as Prisk said last night, shouldn't really be in it. So
I think the Kane factor's big.
Yeah, Harry Kane against Arsenal, Jude Bellingham against Man City.
Yeah, and Arsenal only just got over the line, didn't they? In the Porto game.
How boring was that penalty shootout, by the way?
Not very good.
God, it was like it's Arsenal managed to make a penalty shootout boring. Well done to them.
Yeah. What won't be boring is the prospect of Dublin in May, which I think could be. It could be one of the best finals Liverpool ever play, and if they get there.
Well, imagine it if it's...
In terms of the occasion, I mean.
There'll be loads of people there, but no one will have any hotels, and no one will have any tickets.
They don't need hotels. Someone knows someone in
Ireland. We'll be struggling. I've been saying for months. We need to reserve ours.
I wouldn't get too carried away, though. It's still quarter-finals.
Jurgen Klopp's. That'd be Jurgen Klopp's... Unless they get the FA Cup final, that'd be Jurgen Klopp's final game as manager. Can you imagine that as a send-off?
Yeah.
It'd be unbelievable.
It almost makes you think that they should just bin this dusty old competition called the FA Cup, and just use that as the send off.
But
no, what are you talking about?
Do you know if it wasn't Manchester United away on Sunday, I think there'd be an argument for not being as interested.
Why? It's the quarterfinals.
I don't.
You're there. You're there in the quarterfinals.
I think Klopp's Liverpool team, as much as it's taken out of them, and as much as they suffer injuries, they thrive off the amount of games that they have.
Yeah.
I think, Klopp always talks. What's his favourite word, Ian?
Rhythm.
Winnie, when he means Vinny.
But he talks about rhythm all the time, and because they play twice a week, I always think they're better. And as they get towards the end of the season, if they're playing a lot of games, I always think they play better.
I think if you look at the last from the March international break onwards, if you look at the last 5 seasons, Liverpool won't have dropped many points across those seasons. No. They really seem to turn it on when they absolutely have to in the final quarter of the season, and that's where they're going to be in the next fortnight, aren't they?
In the last 10 games of the season, because I wrote this last year, I think they're the only team that has come close to or even surpassed at some occasion City's final 10 games. Even last season, I think they were the only team that matched or got within a couple of points of City.
Yeah,
even though they were obviously fifth, sixth.
And Villa, didn't he? But they won the rest.
Yeah.
Or Chelsea, depends where you want to take it from.
Let's just talk a quick couple of individual performances from last night's game before I want to have a quick chat about Michael Edwards, because the three of us haven't talked Michael Edwards since that was announced on Tuesday. I'll let you take it away with Bobby Clark, who I mean, I think we've said this on a few pods this season.
I have said it on a few
where
pods,
we've gone, that was the game where he's kind of announced himself, but that was the game last night where he really did announce himself. I thought that was the game where I looked at him and just thought he just looks on the same level as all the other players.
You've been on the Bobby Clark bandwagon first, I'd suggest.
Yeah. I think probably between Lee and Ian, the Bobby Clark bandwagon is being driven by one of them anyway.
Well, that's because game recognises game, as they say.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I recognised him, but I think with Bobby Clark, he was better than most, probably better than all of the Sparta Prague players. I don't even think that's a game where he announced himself. I think he did that when he came on in the League Cup final. He did that when he played very well for 16 minutes against Nottingham Forest in a proper, tense game, high-profile game, a Premier League game, away from home, tough place to go, etc., etc. How many cliches do you want? But he got his goal against Sparta Prague. The way he plays, he's another example of. We were talking earlier about Everton. And we're talking about their academy, and how for years and years they were seen as like they were the level that a lot of clubs want, certainly Liverpool wants to aspire to. And I know these things tend to be quite cyclical, and they come round. And one team might have a good patch of players for about 5 years, another one has 5 years. Like United, for example, didn't have one for a while. Now it looks as though they're getting one or two coming through. But I've completely forgotten what my point was going to be. What were we talking about? Bobby Clark, but it was
coming through the academy. Going to say something good about the academy?
Yeah, I was going to say something good about the academy. Oh, yeah, I remember what it was. Right. Okay. So what it was about is that Clark got into an academy that knows exactly what it's been doing, and it's been doing the same thing for 8 or 9 years. And under Klopp, they all play more or less the same formation from the first team all the way down to the under-16s. So what that means is then when a junior player, when a youth player comes into the first team, they're not being asked to do anything incredibly different to what they've learnt over the course of their time in the academy. And I know that Clark was brought in from Newcastle, but he's been there for nearly 3 years now, so he's had a lot of time. He played against Bournemouth, didn't he, in the 9-0 game? So he'd had a full season then with the under-18s. And what we are seeing a lot of now is players going from under-18s and almost having just a couple of games at under-21s, and it's like, well, good enough now to get involved in the first team. And what's helped is obviously the injury situation that's allowed the likes of Dans, say McConnell, and Kumas over the last couple of months to get in. But with Bobby Clark, he came back. He got injured, didn't he? He came back from injury end of December, beginning of January. Since then, he's been in practically every matchday squad, and he's come on. And I think it's 7 of the last 9 games, or something like 9 of the last 12. You're going back to the FA Cup game at Arsenal back in the first week in January. So he's almost not seen as a youngster anymore as academy. He's a first team player. He's a first team squad member, and his performance, as you mentioned on Thursday, that's underlined that. But anybody who's watched him will go, well, that was just the way he plays. This is just the start. This isn't a game where he's necessarily announced himself. This is just for people who haven't been paying any attention, because he's actually scored a goal and he'll be in the highlights and they've set up another goal. But for anybody else, we'll just go, well, yeah, even Klopp was like, yeah, well, that's what he does.
Well, funny enough, I mean, I want to talk quickly about Harvey Elliott, but before I do, I mean, that is another. Alex Inglethorpe's been at the academy now, 11 years?
Yeah,
12 years, something like that.
11,
and with Michael Edwards coming back in and Liverpool trying to put in place a structure before they hire a new manager, that is another example, isn't it, of why a consistent structure is so good for a football club. And funny enough, this weekend they play a team who do not have that structure and are desperately trying to put that structure in place. But if you think back before Inglethorpe, the amount of academy directors they went through, Benitez was quite bad for it.
He was arguing with them.
And swap them out. They had Pierre Hamburg and Frank McParland and the guy that. And
they weren't using the academy in the correct way back then, and it's taken them a long time to embrace the way that they should be doing it.
Yeah.
It's true, isn't it? It sounds like sometimes they just sound like buzzwords and phrases when you're using these words like culture and structure and stuff like that. But this is it. You're seeing it in action and in practice. And
sometimes it takes a long time for it to bear fruit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's kind of an inverse thing with youth football where it's not necessarily about winning, it's about creating the players, whereas in the senior side, it's the other way around. And Liverpool have got it absolutely spot on, haven't they, with the players who are coming through. You know, even like Jayden Daniels and Lewis Kumas, you know, I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the first team next season because of a full complement of players. But when they've been called up, like Doyle says there, because they've been playing that way for 3-4 years or whatever it is, they know where they should be running, they know when to press or when to close down or whatever it may be. Just little things that are all part of the ethos of Klopp's, you know, philosophy. Again, another buzzword, but we're seeing it in action, and it's paying dividends.
It's natural to them, so they don't have to worry about stuff, so they can just concentrate on actually just playing the game, because they'll either be nervous or excited about, you know, obviously playing the first games as a senior footballer. So it just helps them get more out of them, and it allows them to then project themselves better, and they get a better idea of how good they can be.
Yeah, and that's why when you lose someone like Klopp and it sends shockwaves throughout the club, it does feel like such a... I think goes like far as saying, I think it feels like a masterstroke that the FSG are bringing back Michael Edwards, because it sort of reinforces that structure within the club.
Well, I was also going to say, we were talking then about Benitez and all this, that and the other. Liverpool's ownership was either about to change, was getting debated about being changed, was changed with Hicks and Gillette, and there was never any sense of a long-term plan with any of that for about 10, 15 years. Maybe it's a bit harsh on the predecessors, Hicks and Gillette, to be fair. But when FSG came in, they learnt a bit very early on in the first couple of years, and since then it's because they put their trust in the way things are and the structure that you mentioned that all of it's bearing fruit. And yeah, the fact that Klopp's in charge has helped, and he's been there for 8.5 years by the time he leaves, but they appointed him, and they've done enough to back him to get him in a situation where he's managed to last longer than any Liverpool manager for the past 40 odd years.
Yeah. Michael, as you've not had your say on it since it was announced, but it does feel like, you know, obviously Alonso, everyone wants Alonso. Some people are talking about the Steve Finnan rumours on our chat here.
What are they?
Don't you know?
No.
Well, you two are journalists. Go and find out.
Okay.
Well, we're asking you. Come on, tell us. Waste time. Don't waste time.
Yourself, A. Gillespie and Duncan Keir. No. So
Steve Finnan rumours.
We're all in on it. So you know.
Please bear in mind that the Steve Finnan rumours now are very different to the Steve Finnan rumours from 15 years ago. Now let's crack on.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I think some people are enjoying some time in the chat there, but yeah, I thought when, you know, everyone wants Alonso, and that would be a huge PR win if they could get Alonso. But I think for FSG, getting Edwards back, it just feels like you're going to get the fans back on side, because I never fully believe. Obviously, he's very, very good at his job and has been very, very good at his job. But I'm never fully buy into these mythical sporting directors.
No, I mean,
be all and end all.
I mean, I think a lot of that came from the fact that he kept a low public profile, but brought in some of these players who just immediately hit the ground running and ended up being superstars under Klopp. And some of the negotiations he did for selling players, obviously Coutinho was the big one, but you know, the likes of Jordan Ibe and Mamadou Sakho, and you know, the list goes on, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, I imagine Edwards, you know, if he ever spoke, he'd be the first to say that you know, he's not some sort of all-seeing guy. It's very much a collective effort, some very good people in the right roles, and this is a continuation of that, I guess. You know, the fact that Liverpool are stepping into, you know, a post-Klopp world, the fact that such a trusted executive is back on board probably fills FSG with confidence that they can navigate it and come out the other side, you know, thriving. I think maybe supporters might have to accept a little bit of a season in transition next year, whatever happens, but they've got the right guy in charge in terms of Edwards, haven't they? FSG's CEO of football, so he's not actually a Liverpool employee per se, but he's going to be the boss, isn't he? The new Mike Gordon. And I think that is the exciting thing, that maybe at a certain point there was, you know, professional clashes, if not necessarily personal ones, between Klopp and Edwards. You know, they're both technically equals, but Klopp's profile with the fans and standing probably said that Klopp had the final say on certain things, and maybe that's where a little bit of unrest came in, but now Edwards certainly will have the final say on everything because he is the boss. And I wonder how much that means in terms of the purse strings going to loosen to supply the new manager with funds. I don't think they need to do loads, but we know that FSG haven't exactly been freewheeling spenders over the years. Will that be something they'll ease up on going forward? Because it'll be Edwards who's having a say rather than Mike Gordon, and I think that's quite exciting for certain sections of the fan base. But there's no doubt that they've got someone in who's top at what he does, and he's certainly enthused by the new role. Speaking to people this week.
Yeah, and do you think? Well, Richard Hughes looks like a shoe-in to become Liverpool's sporting director. Do you think behind the scenes, not necessarily things will start moving quickly in the sense that they'll go and get Alonso or whoever it might be, but things will pick up pace behind the scenes as they try and sort of organise life beyond Jurgen Klopp?
Well, it's not going to pick up before the end of the season, is it? Because the manager,
no, but there would be negotiations, won't there?
Yeah, but
they're not going to sit down with Alonso for the first
there's
time.
probably, well, they'll have already been in contact with certain people. We know the way these things work.
Yeah.
In the same way that we know that we're pretty much convinced that Richard Hughes is going to come in as the new sporting director. It's interesting because Edwards probably, while he will have the final say on signings, it won't be up to him to sort them out, will it?
No,
it won't, and it won't be up to him to necessarily determine them or target them or be the one to say, right, that's the one we need to go for, because that won't be his job. No. It never was Mike Gordon's job, was it? Let's be honest. So he's just the one who could then turn around and say, this is too expensive, or this is the kind of level we've got. Perhaps we should go and have a look at this list of players you've given me. So Edwards has got that to his advantage because he knows the way that it works. Now, that could be a problem if he didn't know the sporting director was coming in and didn't have a good working relationship with him, which is why it's good that it's Richard Hughes, who's, I think he was played for Atalanta's youth team, by the way.
Yeah,
I think he did, didn't he? Yeah.
Really?
He was brought up near there. Yeah, brought up. He went to. He went to his dad. We've done this before, haven't we? We did this the other day. And exactly.
That's the point in that. But obviously, Gorst didn't know that.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that. Yeah. What I think's interesting about Richard Hughes is obviously he was the one who brought Andoni Iraola to Bournemouth, and his agent is the same agent as Xabi Alonso, which it's all about contacts. That is quite handy, I'd suggest.
Yeah, I certainly do think so. Let's move on and pick our teams.
What do you think of Michael Edwards coming back, Joe?
I said before.
Are you worried a little bit that it could be a case of never go back, or is the fact that he's going into a completely different situation and a different position, does that aid him?
I think a different role, and also I think a different manager coming in will aid him. I'm always careful of pinning all your hopes on like I said before, like sort of sporting director figures, that sort of thing, and ultimately there was a lot of talk about power struggles between Jurgen Klopp and Michael Edwards, and I'll be honest, I'd rather them not be a power struggle, but if there was going to be, it was always for me Jurgen Klopp was the more influential person in the club, and I think you've seen that, and I think you see that clubs like Man United now chasing sporting directors and wanting to pay big money for them, and I think it's a department. It's a department, isn't it? And there's lots of different there's lots of different people at work. Fallows and Hunter, for example, are obviously two really key people, and when you speak to people at Liverpool, you get a sense of how. What you're laughing at?
Fallows and Hunter sounds like an Irish singing duo, but on Paddy's weekend as well.
They have a lot of influence at Liverpool and have been involved in some of the big deals that Liverpool have done over the last sort of several years under Klopp's reign. So it's not just Michael Edwards, and it never was just Michael Edwards. But ultimately, I think FSG have got to win some hearts and minds, because when they lose Klopp, people will ask questions. So Edwards being there will certainly help. And obviously, he was very good at his job. Obviously, he has really good contacts. People like him. People respect him. I think it makes a lot of sense. So I'm really pleased with it. And obviously, we know that Mike Gordon, he's tried to step back from things, didn't he, last season, and sort of came back. And now this allows him to do that, and Liverpool don't have to worry about his long-term successor.
Yeah, and as well, I don't think Liverpool are going to lose his expertise as a sporting director because he's not the sporting director. So it's all just about, for example, he's got a great relationship with the Red Bull stable, for example. Yeah. Now, Richard Hughes might not, but if Liverpool seeing up and coming player at Salzburg, Michael Edwards is inclined to speak to. So I think it'll be a very fluid operation, and it's an exciting one, isn't it? As far as the kind of behind the scenes executive stuff is. I still think maybe sometimes people think a little bit too much into it, but I guess the likes of us tend to talk it up as well, don't we?
FSG have had a lot of stake in it, and sometimes rightly so. The big PR decisions, Super League and all that. Yeah, they deserve the stick they got for them. But it always goes berserk in the summer and in January because they don't spend on X, Y, and Z. And I always think it's. I think that Liverpool will be the envy of so many clubs in the league. Yeah. With the perception of maybe Man City, but everyone else wants to be like them. Chelsea want to be like them and are trying their hardest. Man United are desperate to be like Liverpool. So I think, I think the structure there is really good, and this is a sign that, that they are doubling down on that. So
Dublin.
Doubling down.
Very good. Yeah, very good.
Question for Ian Doyle. Who's the better player, Marcus Babbel or Steve Finnan?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. I suppose from terms of achievements, you'd probably say overall as a career Marcus Babbel, but in terms of an actual talented footballer, as a right back, because I think Marcus Babbel also played centre back, as a right back, I'd say Steve Finnan.
Yeah, I'd say Steve Finnan. Yeah, I think I thought Marcus Babbel was a very talented player, but we only really got one season out of him, didn't we?
To be fair, that wasn't his fault.
No, it wasn't. But if you're just asking me who's the better player for Liverpool, I'd certainly say.
Who's the better player for Liverpool? Emil Heskey or Michael Owen or Robbie Fowler?
Emil Heskey. I mean, that's not like everyone's saying that the Europa League is the new Champions League. Everyone. I don't deal in.
This is like the podcast with the alternative view on cups, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Just like Joe Rimmer's mild, the crazy world of Joe Rimmer.
I've got a feeling next season people might say the Champions League is the new Champions League, but right now,
when you say people, do you mean you?
The Champions League is the. Someone just replied, Fowler.
I don't think there's any doubt in that one, to be fair.
Yeah.
As much as you like Emil, I think Fowler was about football. Well, I'm absolutely convinced he was.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask the next question. But let's pick our teams. No, don't look. Let's pick our teams and make our score predictions.
Kelleher, Conor Bradley. I feel harsh on Joe Gomez for leaving him out because I think he's probably been Liverpool's top 3 players. But Gerald Kwanzaa, Van Dijk, and Andy Robertson.
Question: if we get to Dublin, who will moan about prices of food and drink most?
It won't be me. That's for sure.
It won't.
No, of course it won't. Because we're not paying for him, are we?
100%.
It'll be 100% be Theo. 100%.
I'm hoping all our lovely listeners will buy us all the drinks.
Yeah.
Have you met them?
No,
they're never going to do that.
Yeah. Sorry, what was you back for?
Kwanzaa instead of Gomez, basically.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that might also be the case. I think it'd be Kelleher. I think it'd be Bradley. I think it will be Kwanzaa, Van Dijk, and actually, I'm going to go Robertson still. Still Robertson, yeah.
Yeah, I think Robertson, Bradley. The only one I think is up for debate is whether he fancies putting Gomez in there instead of Kwanzaa, just because. I don't know, but Kwanzaa's played so well, and he's played centre back all season. So, I would probably stick with Kwanzaa myself. Midfield, does it pick itself?
Yeah, maybe Harvey Elliott. I thought he was really good yesterday as a number 10, and I think that, in a way, is quite exciting because a new manager might play with a number 10, and I think he's tailor made for that role. Really starting to show himself as a senior pro, isn't he? He looks like a man now. He's a bit stronger and a bit more built. But saying that, I think McAllister, you can't overlook him. I think Szoboszlai's been good since he's been back in, and Endo is one of the first names on the sheet at the moment.
McAllister, Endo, and Szoboszlai.
Yeah, agreed. I wanted to talk about Elliott, and we didn't get onto it, but maybe next time. But again, I think he's one of those players who's really unlucky because every time we've seen him this season, he's played really, really well. But when you come to pick your team, not many of us are putting him in it.
Like Gomez,
that's a bit harsh, really. Because I think he really affects the game. But I think if Liverpool are trying to turn the screw on United at some point in the second half, and you've got him to bring on.
Well, I think people have long realised that it's not an 11 person aside game now. It's 14, 15, 16 sometimes. So if you're in that 13, 14 bracket, then you're going to be getting minutes nearly every game.
Yeah, and who's your front three?
Salah, Nunes, and Diaz.
I wouldn't disagree. I think that will put the fear of God in United's defence.
Yeah,
9,000 Liverpool fans will be there at Old Trafford, and I think it's the largest official gathering of Liverpool fans at Old Trafford for a game against Manchester United ever.
Pretty much, and I actually asked Van Dijk about that yesterday. 9,000 fans used that statistic that you told me pre-match, and he was saying we know it's going to be hostile, but 9,000 can redress the balance, and I think the squad are quietly looking forward to that, to hear that on Sunday.
I think there's been 8,000 and 8,500 and 7,000 there in the past. I mean, there's probably been more with people getting tickets, in the home end and the old days where you could stand. So there's no way you could work out them. But in terms of official allocations for Liverpool, it's the biggest one they've ever had at Old Trafford for a game against United.
Hit me up with your score predictions, please, Ian Doyle.
I think it'll be 1-1. I think just to annoy me, it'll go to penalties, and then Fernandes will step up to win the game and he'll miss, and Kelleher will score the winning penalty in a 33-32 penalty victory.
That is a bit specific and crazy, but go on.
I think Liverpool will win 3-1.
I think Liverpool will win 3-1.
I do think it'll go to penalties though, and I think Liverpool will win on pens.
Okay, well there you go. One more question before we go.
Go on.
Will Klopp leave after the parade, or does he stay till the end of June? I don't suppose it matters.
Doesn't really matter, because after the parade, that's it. Everyone just goes off and they go to their international teams. Klopp won't be involved in the recruitment.
He might have some HR stuff to do. He might have to send his laptop back.
Yeah, and his mobile phone as well. Yeah. He'll have to get his handy security pass in as well.
Yeah.
What else would he have to do? Probably. Would he have a car? I don't think he will now.
Don't know.
He has to sort his house out. Of course. Yeah. So
he
probably could take a couple of weeks off just to sort that out. Yeah.
Take
a half day on a Friday.
Few people saying 4-1 Reds, 2-1 Reds.
4-1.
Still getting
I'm not being, on a serious point. Before we go, I know you're desperate to go, but before we go, it's like before that 0-0 game. People were saying 4 or 5. People were saying 4 or 5-0, and I was like, no chance. And I suspect it's going to be a little bit like that on Sunday. There's no way United will want to get beat tonked in front of their own fans when it's the last chance they've got to win in something this season.
Look, I'm not sitting here saying I think it's going to be a huge scoreline, but someone's just put 11-2. but I just think the way Liverpool are playing at the moment, they can put United on the back foot and they can really expose them, because I don't think Man United are a very good team.
Especially if United will have to come out.
They will have to come out. They can't play a game like they played at Anfield where they just sat, and Liverpool got frustrated.
I thought you needed to go.
I do need to go. Thank you all for listening. Give it a like. There's 130 odd of you watching on YouTube. Only 4 likes. Get that like button. Press that thumb and press that bell. Subscribe and press the bell. If you're listening on Apple, give us a star rating. You don't have to give us all 5. It would be nice, but
just give me 5. Give the others 2, 4 possibly.
If you're a Doyleaholic, let him know in the comments. If you're a Gorst Ultra, let us know in the comments.
Not many of them.
If you prefer a bit of Theo, let us know in the comments. Yeah.
We'll show you to the nearest clinic.
Keep your glasses of Carabao half full, and we'll be back on Monday to hopefully talk another win for Liverpool and look ahead to the international break. Oh God,
I'm actually looking forward to it.
I am, because I'm off.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. See you then.